Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I want to talk about Tasoshi Drakomoto. It's the current exclusive voucher card that we can purchase from the marketplace in Splinterlands using vouchers, and it's a pretty cool card. I want to talk about it because one, the card has been changed, two, that changes my opinions that I previously formed around the card, and three, I want to show you gameplay examples of how I'm using it now. So if that sounds interesting, stick around. Let's get into it. Tasoshi Drakomoto. Some say she once trained with the Dragon's Guard. Others claim she is the descendant of Shima Capri, the first Suam emperor, and she is not Gloridax at all. No one knows for certain, not her lineage, her age, nor even if Tasoshi Drakomoto is her real name. Her past is a shadow, her face rarely seen, her methods impossible to trace. Very coy little descriptors pointing to Satoshi. And I want to say that I covered this card when it was first launched, and I did 2 videos or 3 videos talking about it on June 15th and June 18th, looks like, and maybe a little bit on June 26th of this year, which is really only a month and a half ago. So why are we doing another video if we've already talked about it? Because significant changes have happened to this card. It's been dramatically changed, actually redesigned even. And so, and I said in these 2 videos that my main thrust, I would say, would be that, the card is strong, and it was interesting even at this previous sort of iteration, costing more mana and doing less for the same than it does now. And yet I said, it's not going to compare to Keeling Gains. Keeling Gains was the voucher card before this, and what an amazing card. Double strike, phase, huge evasiveness, tons of speed, good magic damage, decent hit points. Keeling Gains was the package. And so Tasoshi came out, and I just knew it wasn't going to be what Keeling was. And that doesn't mean it was going to be, a bad success. Like, look, we've been out from 6 weeks. We've already sold 1.5 million vouchers on the card. I think by this point, Keeling Gains had already done probably 2 or 3 million. So, point being, the data is bearing out what I previously thought. But here's the deal. It's no longer, an 8 mana and what else? It has Spite Painforge now too, which is a huge alteration. Let's check this out. So there's the prior iteration. 8 mana, 3 damage, 2 armor, 6 hit points, 4 speed, sneak, inspire, stun, and spite. And we fast forward to modern day, and it's got 6 mana, which is a huge reduction and a massive buff. Same damage output, same survivability and evasiveness in terms of speed. It still has sneak, still has inspire, stun, and spite, but it now also adds Painforge, and this is this is a meaningful buff, maybe one of the most meaningful buffs we've seen probably since Tofu. I don't know if there's, apart from Tofu and how they tweaked Tofu, giving it to Thorns damage, I don't know if there's ever been a card that was more buffed than this card. I actually believe that this buff is gigantic. The mana reduction from 8 to 6, and the introduction of Painforge, which increases the power damage when poisoned or burned or hit by an ally. So huge. And what does that do to the valuation or price point? Or what does that mean for, its utility and also its price? Let's look at utility. We'll look at some matches. I've got 3 matches I'm going to show you where I featured it. And this is kind of news to me, but I think this has happened. These modifications have probably happened a week ago or something. I've just kind of heard it through the Splinterlands, the content creators covering this topic, and it might have been People's Guild. I can't remember who I heard this from. Might have been Influencer Town Hall Edition. Either way, I heard about Tasoshi, and I thought to myself, okay, I was only at level 5. I got to max it out now. I want that full kit, and so I did. For about $4.50 per unit. And by the way, 46 BCX in an epic means roughly a $200 card. It was shooting closer to 300 on launch because of voucher prices and intense demand. Plus, people wanted those black foils, so they were willing to chase after them, buying from Splinterlands in order to sell to the marketplace in the hopes of getting gold foils and black foils. Suffice it to say, the card's gotten better and the price has gotten The card and the price have gotten better. So watch the video, see the damage it does, and consider getting one yourself maybe. So first of all, let's see what we had. On a 27 mana match where melee from any position and amp damage and rage is possible, with fire and earth and life, Tofu was always a real probable choice. And so melee is not usually the best choice when you're running into a Tofu with an amp damage. But man, does this card carry. And in conjunction with the Cavewise Wayfinder, which can fire from the rear, let's slow it down to 3 speed because of the melee from Mayhem. This just really works. And I love the position of the Cavewise Wayfinder in conjunction with 2 Painforge monsters. And so it puts, look at this combination over here, by the way. Vicious Draft hitting for 8 melee because of the combination of Painforge and the damage that happens from Reckless and the Enraged happening from the rule set. Crazy, 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 and that's going to get even better. And meanwhile, over here, Oridum Greybrow with his self-res or resurgence just putting in work. It looked concerning. I was mostly melee, but again, let's just keep watching. Tasoshi over here with the 5-bomb and the stun. Just putting in work. Nice big deletion there from Oridum with the Pierce. And then here he comes. Putting on a clinic in some sense. But everybody, my little 4-man squad is just putting in work. Look at Tasoshi with the nuclear blast, or over here with the 11 bomb from the giraffe, which starts with 2 damage. Was it a solo carry from the Tasoshi? No, it wasn't. There was a fullness to that batch that a lot of things went well. But I think you're going to see with the other matches we're going to feature here in a moment, that it's going to be match number 2. You're going to see a trend here. The beginning of the trend of how I'm utilizing Tasoshi. The key with Tasoshi, given its Painforge, has to be the implementation of Reckless. And so can you bring out 2 Reckless and see what would that do? And often the Cavewise Wayfinder seems like an obvious choice, but of course it doesn't have reach usually. It does because of this rule set, and that's why we're using it. In the previous match, we saw the melee from any position, therefore we used it in the back line. But generally speaking, you don't have the Cavewise as a Reckless monster. Maybe you could go alone with the Gonosh in conjunction with the Lorcus, which is also going to buff Tasoshi. There's a variety of ways because maneuvers, super sneak, equal opportunity. There's a multitude of rule sets where you're going to get these Reckless monsters like Cavewise in the back line where they can do work on Tasoshi. Before I go any further, my opponent with the maxed out Venka, clearly a super dangerous card. However, we got a taunt from the Bell monster in the back line over here. The evasiveness of the Slade is a concern, but our main carries are the Kaelin and the Tasoshi. Let's see what happens. Miss. And one thing that I remembered in this battle was that when your Reckless monster misses, it doesn't do damage to the Tasoshi or to the neighboring monster, which is interesting because we still swung. It's almost like I should still hit my neighboring unit. So I wonder if there needs to be a tweak to how Reckless works, because if I swing my hammer and I don't hit the enemy, that doesn't necessarily mean I didn't hit my neighboring ally or I didn't Reckless damage my neighboring ally. Again, very super fast match. We pulled that one out quick and easy. We got one more match to feature. Lorcus, Magic, Tasoshi with the Reckless, and let's get it right here. Match number 3. Again, going up against Tofu, one of the best of the best, maybe the best of the best. Previously 70% win rates. A lot of Lorcus clawing back some of that lately. And then again, equal opportunity. So another pathway to introduce a Reckless from the rear. Maneuvers, equal opportunity, super sneak, melee from any position. There's a variety of options where you can get this doing work where you want it from the back line, maybe proccing more than one Painforge. Let's see how this goes. My opponent has a lot of hit points. They've got triages, they've got, I would say this shouldn't look good to me. I'm primarily focusing on melee, with the exception of essentially that archer that just died and Tasoshi. But Tasoshi's a beast. He's dropping a 6 bomb. And then the stun, by the way, just shutting down the triage over here and the damage output from the Sky Spire. We're doing 7. And the life leech with Lorcus. So how about that in conjunction with the Reckless? So the Reckless is going to chip damage you, but then we're doing 9 damage now in the Pain Forge. And when we hit, now we only got we only recouped a little. But the spite there, I was like, when I was watching this live yesterday, I was like, oh man. But then the spite kill with that huge Tasoshi final bomb. And so, wow. The combination between Lorcus and in the multitude of rule sets where you can bring reckless attacks back from the front line into the rear, where they can be utilized to prop up your Pain Forged Tasoshi, it seems very effective to me. And not just that, it's also about utilizing the life leech in conjunction with Reckless bringing your damage up and life leech bringing your life back. Or maybe you bring a corrupted healer. That's another angle. I didn't show that here, but certainly that would be an option too. However, regardless of how you slice it, I think Tasoshi is a dramatically improved card. And I think the new conclusion has to be that this card is, for me, I've only played it probably 5 times or 10 times in the last 24 hours since I learned about its modifications, but it's at least got to be said it's a massive upgrade. 8 mana to 6 is a huge, quality of life improvement. And then the Pain Forge clearly won me at least 2 of those 3 matches. And so I think this has we talked about utility, we talked about my intrigue around it, but finish off the conversation around price point. The price on Tasoshi has gone down since the release. And then in part that's because people buying from the marketplace using vouchers drove up voucher prices, which made it look like they were buying a more expensive card because they were selling vouchers. The voucher had a price point that implied a greater US dollar valuation. That's the first piece. And the second piece is people bought from this marketplace in order to get black foils and gold foils, and then ultimately to sell regular foils into the peer-to-peer marketplace on sites like Peak Monsters. And so the card's gotten cheaper, but I'm not convinced that it's gotten that cheaper, that price point reflects the utility in game any longer. I think with these modifications, I would argue that this price should be improved, not should be drawn up. And then also, if you agree with that, there should be a conversation on, associated cards, reckless cards. What does that mean for instance, those reckless monsters that I showed, like let's just quickly go to Peak Monsters and search the word reckless. Reckless from the fire, death, and neutral, because we would probably play it with Lorcus most of the time. And so you've got, maybe all of these, if you haven't already acquired these, need to be acquired in order to synergize in a new way or a fresh way with a card that's clearly seen a massive improvement over the last few days or weeks, whenever that modification happened. Anyways, I like Tasoshi a lot more. I think this upgrade makes it worthwhile for the investment at this point, and I have since purchased it because of that. Like, I slowly was getting copies, but then as soon as I saw that, I went out and bought the last 15 or 20 copies I needed because I thought it makes that big of a difference. Let me know in the comments below if you agree. Have an awesome day. God bless.